Hello, happy Halloween, and welcome back to the Midnight Horror Picture Show. Today's guest is my friend Dustin Hendrix. Dustin is a talented author and filmmaker who just published the first book in his children's horror series, Creeptales. A graduate of Oakland University, where he earned a bachelor's degree in creative writing, Dustin has consistently been writing and directing horror shorts for several years. Under his Tin Hen production banner, Dustin and his wife Amanda are gearing up for their first feature based on a proof of concept short that you can watch today. But more on that later. I'm very excited to share with you my conversation with Dustin Hendrix. For the first time ever, welcome Dustin Hendrix to the Midnight Horror Picture Show.
Well, it's so good to be here for the first time ever.
The first time ever. We absolutely did not record this episode 4 months ago. And then only when I got to editing it a month ago did I realize that my audio was messed up to a point that it was unusable. So that didn't happen. Happy Halloween, everyone. That's a spooky story from the editing bay to share with you. So Dustin, tell the listeners how you came to the horror genre, not only as a filmmaker, but as an author.
Yeah, so it's a great question that I'm really excited to answer for the first time. Sorry, I'm gonna keep saying that. So I started out like a lot of us like millennials. We started out with Goosebumps and like a lot of like spooky media growing up. And so Goosebumps for me was really the gateway of like, hey, because I always loved trick-or-treating growing up. I love the Halloween season. And so Goosebumps, even though it like freaked me out, it was still like, oh, I want to check out like what's this scary dummy on the cover, you know? And so like got me into it. And that for me was really my gateway into horror. And then like from a young age, I would write my own stories. And then I would start to make my little like handmade, like it was like Monster Blood 4 before Monster Blood 4 was actually a book. So I would just like, I would do that, and it was just for fun, and then kind of like growing up, like this is something that I always like to mention, but like you probably remember going to like the video rental stores growing up, and I would always just find myself, I'd walk past like the horror aisle and I just kind of like peek. And I remember like, it just felt very like scary and like dangerous in that section. But I would kind of like dare myself to like look, because, I was like curious, but like some of those covers on like the videos were like terrifying and would give me nightmares.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Like Trilogy of Terror, like that puppet, I remember that one like freaking me out big time. So it was kind of like a mixture of that. Goosebumps definitely gave me like a kid-friendly kind of like gateway into that. And then it was kind of, as I was getting older, I was kind of like, well, what's about, I'd ask like, what's about Freddy? And like, I want to know like about these guys. And then I've also mentioned this before. I don't know if I mentioned this here. I mean, not mentioned this here, but so I inherited my grandpa's camcorder when I was about 12. And so, I would write for fun, and then I was like just kind of playing around with the camera. And then I really would just like, I would end up just making kind of like weird videos, like weird kind of like, I would almost describe they're kind of like early YouTube. They just have, they're just like skits. And so that's really where I kind of got to play with the forum of like video, like making videos. And then it was kind of getting to a point where it's like, okay, well, I like to tell stories. I like spooky things. And I also like to shoot these like videos. I didn't really consider myself like a filmmaker at the time. But it was kind of just this natural kind of progression. And then it wasn't until like, and again, we did not discuss this before, but it wasn't until you and I were roommates about 10 years ago, which I don't know how that's possible.
It's wild. It's wild, right? I was thinking about that the other day, and I was like, man, Dustin and I actually like, it was until 10 years ago, but we moved in together 12 years ago.
Oh, was it 12? Oh, man.
Yeah, dude. It was like fall of 2013, man, was when we got that apartment at the aptly named for us as, you know, who we've become as people, Crystal Lake Apartments. So, yeah, no, it's wild stuff. But keep going. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Oh no, you're good. And I think I remember the address. Wasn't the number like the police code for like a homicide or something like that?
That was the first one we looked at. We were gonna be in apartment 186.
Oh yeah, 186. Because there's that show Detroit 186.
Yeah, buddy.
So we almost ended up in like a murder house, but no. So that was around the time when Neil, you introduced me to the horror film roulette, and so it's kind of around the time where it's like, you know what, I'd like to really kind of like throw my hat in the ring and like actually try this time. You know, like before it'd be me and my brothers kind of like goofing around, and so I ended up shooting a film. 10 years ago now was when I did Interdimensionary, which sounds wild.
Right.
That was around the time I'd seen Manborg. And so I was like inspired to make something that just like kind of lean into the low budgetness.
100%. Well, you were the one who turned me on to all of the Astron 6 films.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, 100%, man. Because we had a gallery wall in our living room in our apartment that was mostly horror movie posters. But one thing you had on the gallery wall was one of the old like Blockbuster video store placards that would sit behind the DVD for Manborg. So, and I know that was up on our gallery wall. So
first rip Blockbuster.
Rip.
Like just you mentioning that, I'm like, oh man, I used to like trying to collect those. I don't even know what happened to that one, but yeah.
Everything. I mean, they were like flimsy cardboard too, so I'm sure. But that's the whole thing. And you brought up a really interesting point when you were talking about going through the video store when you were younger and like how important to the marketing of a film the cover art was in video stores, right? And it's the same concept as like a thumbnail image now on your Netflix or whatever streaming service. But where they've like tested it for streaming and now it's more like use an action shot from the film that looks more interesting to people than like a normal cover. Like the art of old like 80s through the like early aughts horror films that was just made for the release was always so cool to look through, especially growing up, because you and I have so many like shared experiences in that way, right? I also grew up, my entryway into horror was very much the same. Goosebumps, Erie, Indiana, you know, Are You Afraid of the Dark kind of kinder horror, right? Actually, while we're speaking of Goosebumps, I think we do need to mention that we both have met R.L. Stine and Tim Jacobus, who was the
illustrator. Yes, we have.
Yes, we have. Yeah, we were actually, I ran into you at Motor City Comic Con when Tim Jacobus was there, and that's like literally the only reason I went. And as I walked up to the table, I saw that you were talking to him, and I was like, of course, all right, this makes sense. This tracks.
But of course he'd be here talking to Tim Jacobus.
Right. Of course, Dustin's going to be right in front of me in line for Tim Jacobus. Got it.
Right. And of course, you'd be right behind me, you know.
Right. Exactly. Because I'm always fucking late.
Oh.
So to get us back on track, we were just talking about your first horror film roulette film. Take us through the next couple you made for that competition.
Okay, yeah. So kind of like bullet points. So the first one, Interdimensionary, inspired by Manborg. The second one, The Ghost Life, which is where I met my now wife, Amanda. And now we have a kid on the way, which is really exciting.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And really crazy. But it's also fun because, you know, we met on a film set and like we're still making films together, which we'll get to that later, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
And then the third film that I did was Monstrous, because the horror film roulette, I know you've discussed on the show, like you get a genre. So I probably should have mentioned the first year was sci-fi. The second one was supernatural. The third one was Monster because we did Monstrous because we were like, oh, let's just say monster, but in German for some reason. Which looking back, I'm like, it's not in German. I don't know why we just thought we thought it sounded cool.
Yeah, it does sound cool, to be fair.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, and that one was just kind of the exploration of like the monster is like a concept, like people being the monsters, not like a literal monster. And then the fourth one we did Dormir, which, you know, again, it's the whole Spanish thing. Being cool with the titles, but Dormir, which is Spanish for sleep. And that one it was kind of based on a real life thing about like Amanda was I think she was at OU and she got approached by this they were having some kind of like a religious gathering or something, but I think it was in Korean, and then they went on the website and it was like in Korean, and then they translated it, and it's basically they were saying that their pastor is like the second coming of like Jesus or something like that.
Okay.
So, you know, totally not a cult or anything like that. No. So I was like, wow, that's pretty cool that their pastor is, you know, second coming of Christ. But so we ended
how hard it is to book that guy.
Oh, I'm sure it's impossible. Yeah. But so we kind of based it on that, you know, that concept of like you get approached about this thing. Oh, we'll go check it out, and then it just does not go well. And then the fifth one, which you mentioned, we did the Hat Man, which is based on the real life phenomenon of the actual Hat Man that I've actually met multiple people who have met, and that's really what kind of like, you know, inspired that. So that's all five we did for the horror roulette.
Dang. Put in some work, man.
No, I mean it was quite a bit of work.
So, okay. So was your wife Amanda, she was your director of photography on the last 3 or 4 of those?
On 4.
On 4 of them.
Yeah, because she came in as DP for The Ghost Life, and then she was DP on the rest of our films for the horror roulette.
Yeah. So Amanda is very talented. Can you just quickly, I'd love to have her on at some point to talk about her work, but if you wouldn't mind just giving your wife a shout out and talking a little bit about her work with Real Clever and what she's been up to.
Oh yeah. I love to plug my wife because I feel like she doesn't really talk about the stuff that she does a lot. But she's an Emmy-winning producer. I always like to mention that because she never does. And I'm like, and she's an Emmy-winning producer because she won an Emmy on it was a PSA for like Road Rage, and I can't remember like what it was called exactly, but I actually have a little cameo in it. Like you can see my face in it, but I can like send it to you.
Please do. Yes.
Yeah, it was kind of like a little I Think You Should Leave kind of like imagine like Road Rage, but like at a grocery store was like the concept. So yeah, they won like a regional Emmy for that. And then yeah, she's been working with Real Clever for about 3. It's hard to keep track because the years kind of fly, but I think it's been about at least 3 years, maybe 4. And they've done a lot of projects together. Like they've done documentaries, which I mentioned earlier. The one it's called, I believe it's Make Way for Tomorrow. It's actually premiering tonight in Detroit. But that's why I'm solo tonight, because Amanda's out being cool.
Right. That's so cool, man. Yeah. No, she's very talented. A very, very talented director of photography and clearly producer. I mean, she got Emmys. Does she got the statue? Like,
she doesn't have it. Like, she has a picture with it, but like, because when it's like
shared.
Yeah, when it goes to like, it goes to like Real Clever, so like it's only like the one. Ooh. But they get right. I'm like, it'd be cool to have one. I could like point it out, but I got to see it in person. It's pretty nice. It's pretty shiny.
Well, awesome, man. Awesome. All right. So you did over 5 years, you made 5 films for Horror Film Roulette. And then what came next for you in your film journey?
Okay. and that's where it gets to this like kind of transitional point in my life, which surprise, it involves COVID. So it was like, so I had just graduated from Oakland University because I was getting my degree in creative writing in screenwriting. And I graduated like the end of 2019. And I was like, all dewy eyed. I'm like, yeah, I've got the world's my oyster. Like, let's go. And then I wrote a film, English Breakfast, which Oakland University's their student and video productions actually picked, because every year they would like produce a film. They'd like pick a script and then produce it. And so my script got picked, and so they were going to do that, and they also let me direct, which was awesome.
Hell yeah, man.
And so and daunting. And then we shot the first half of that film in March of 2020, which, as you might know, is a little weird around that time.
Yeah.
So production got shut down for a whole year. So we shot half the film, and then just a year went by where we're like, what is happening right now? Like, it feels like you're in the Twilight Zone. And I had like a moment where I was like willing to accept that I might not finish this film because it just felt like it wasn't going to happen. Like, if you remember, you go on Rotten Tomatoes and like they didn't even have like the box office numbers. Like that was so weird. And I remember having this moment where I was like, what's the point of even like being a filmmaker if I can't even like if you can't even go to like a movie theater?
Right. No, that's fair.
And it was kind of like a moment for me where I feel like it kind of forced me to really consider why filmmaking and like storytelling was so important to me. And so, a year later, thankfully we were able to like get everything together. We got the band back together and we shot the second half of English Breakfast. And so if you watch it, you're watching not just like you're watching one film, and it's like it was filmed in two halves, one pre-pandemic, one post-pandemic. And you don't notice like when those halves are like put together, but that really shows like the power of filmmaking. And like when you can find ways to be creative to hide the fact that you shot in two completely different locations. And like I'm really proud of like how that turned out. And so it was kind of also around that time that I started writing like short stories, and I was kind of like figuring out like, what am I like? I have my 9 to 5, but it's like I want to keep doing films, but like what should I really kind of focus on right now? And originally I was going to publish a book of like short stories, and I was kind of working on that. And then one day, I think because you might be able to relate, but around COVID, it's like, oh, I remember Game Boy Advance games. So I'm like buying a bunch of Game Boy Advance games and like kind of going down those nostalgia trips. And then that's when I rediscovered Goosebumps. And I was like, because as a kid, I was obsessed with Goosebumps. And there was a moment when I was about like 7 or 8 where I got in trouble, and I had to get rid of all my Goosebumps stuff, like everything.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Like,
no.
It was kind of a traumatic moment, because it's like Goosebumps was like my thing, and I had to get rid of like all of it. And so, like over the years, I would kind of revisit the episodes once in a while, but it wasn't until like it was around like 2021 that I was like, wait a second, I'm like, actually, like I love Goosebumps, and like all the stories, like the Haunted Mask, the Scarecrow Walks at Midnight, like Say Cheese and Die, like those were like my horror movies growing up. And so I got like, I ended up like buying all the books again, to like rebuild my collection. And one day Amanda was like, oh, you should do like your own like kid style like book series like Goosebumps. And I was like, that's actually a really good idea, and I would love to do that. And I immediately came up with the title Night of the Living Pizza. That was like literally like 5 seconds after she said that, like that title like popped in my head. And I was like, okay, I'm going to write that book.
And you did. Dustin Hendrix's Creeptales, Night of the Living Pizza, the first book in his Creeptales series. So talk.
Here's more proof.
Oh, here's more proof. Double proof.
This isn't AI.
Right. I wanna like punch in on a couple things you said before we get to the book. You said something really interesting about how COVID and like halfway through English breakfast where you thought you might have to abandon the project, which is like never a fun thing to realize or like have to do, but it made you think about like your passion for like about continuing to do this, right?
Yeah.
What conclusion did you come to in that time that made you continue?
I think for me was like it was like, okay, we got this far with this film with English Breakfast. We shot the first half. I'm like, we'll do whatever we can to like finish it. So that was really like my first goal was just like, I just want to finish this thing, because I felt like we owed it to everyone who had helped us get that far.
Yeah.
And then when we shot the second half, I remember it was really hard the first night. I remember like kind of having a breakdown. I mean, I have a breakdown on most of our shoots, but but the first night I was just like, I'm just having the usual, I'm in over my head, blah, blah, blah. And Amanda's like, just, you're fine. Like, don't, that's all, that's us in a nutshell.
Right.
But I was like, nope, I was like, even if I feel like I'm not doing the best, and like each day I'm going to try to focus on like doing better than before, than the day before. And I think that's kind of been my thing. It's like I'm, if I feel like I'm not doing the greatest in whatever, it's like, okay, well, what could I do to kind of like just do a bit better like the next time or improve things the next day. So it was kind of just this like self-motivating thing to like, hey, let's finish this. And then I did have this moment. It was like after we wrapped, which, it's usually bittersweet, but like, it felt really good to like, wow, we finally did this. We like came together. We like finished this thing that's a year ago I didn't think was going to happen. And then I went to the movies and saw The Green Knight by myself. And I remember sitting there and like the previews were going and like, I just had this moment of like, this is why I make films. There's something about the magic of cinema, about sitting in a theater and watching the story like unfold. And you're just kind of sitting there and soaking it in. And then also the thing about film, it's the community aspect where you come together with a bunch of people. And it's, this film is like this puzzle where you're all trying to figure out, okay, what's the best way to finish this? And, the goal is to like finish the puzzle, finish making this film. So when you finish it together, it's like a very special feeling to me because it's like we all came together, we made this happen, we made like magic happen. And so for me, those were like kind of two big things was like just that community part when you're able to like, collaborate with people and make something special. And then also it was like after I got to watch The Green Knight, because that was also kind of a transformative experience for me. I was like, wow, like now I remember why I love like films and storytelling because it can really just transport you and I don't know, just put a little magic in your life.
100%, man. Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I'm sure a lot of people listening can relate to that, right? Sometimes, things don't go the right way on set or like whatever a project, turns out, but maybe not the way you wanted it to or whatever. And then you're like, man, why am I even doing this? Especially when you're, an independent filmmaker who's not making money off their work yet. It's like, man, I put so much of myself, so much of my passion and just effort and hard work and blood, sweat, and tears and time, right? Like time is so valuable and we put so much time into this. And it's like, what? For what? Like, and then you'll sit down and you'll go to the theater and you'll be like, oh my God, this is why. Like what I'm feeling right now, like I want to do this for other people. I want to captivate them with a story that takes him out of it all for a second, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, dude, that's such a good reason. It's a good reason to keep doing what you're doing, man. No, I love that. So besides the struggles of being a filmmaker, like you said, you decided to become a children's author.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to read this a little while ago, and it's so much fun and so reminiscent of like the Goosebumps series and all of that Kinder horror.
Mm.
Listeners will have more details later on how you can get your own copy of Dustin's book. But tell us, without any spoilers, how'd you come up with the story for Night of the Living Pizza?
So that's actually a good question. No one's asked me that. And I don't know if I've thought about it. So before I even started writing the book, I did a deep dive on how R.L. Stine would write the Goosebumps books. And with every book he does, he picks the title first. That's the first thing he does. He figures out the title, and then he figures out the ending. And then he outlines the book like chapter by chapter. And so I'm like, okay, it's definitely called Night of Living Pizza. And then I came up with an ending, which I don't know how I came up with the ending because so much happens like from the beginning until the end.
Right.
But I think I was just kind of like, I was just brainstorming and I was like, okay, like come up with this like kind of like weird. And also the ending in the book is different than what I originally thought of. The original ending was a bit darker.
Ooh.
But I came up with the ending and then kind of like worked backwards. And so, I wrote like, the character, and I did like a little like character sheet for like him and like the sister and the friend. And so I kind of like did that. And then I just worked the outline. And then that was basically how I like created the story was, I had the setting, and then I would just be like, okay, well, this happens in chapter 1. And which also like with R.L. Stine, he every chapter ends in a cliffhanger. So that's something that's something I'm doing with my series is I want each chapter to end with a cliffhanger. So it makes you want to find out what happens next.
I think that was like one of the most like nostalgic parts of reading it was I saw that's exactly what you were doing. And I was like, oh man, he's doing the thing. Like, yeah, it's so, but it works. And especially for young readers who have, no shortage of distractions in their lives, like keeping that attention of like, and it's what we did as kids. And I'm sure you did the same thing. And I'm sure listeners have also done the same thing, which is, you'd read a chapter or you'd be reading before bed and it's like, oh, mom, just one more chapter, just one more chapter. I was talking with my mom about this the other week, but like her and my dad would read me Goosebumps before bed. They'd read them to me. And my mom was telling me, she was like, what we'd have to do is we'd say, all right, we're going to stop after this chapter, but then we'd have to read one page into the next chapter so you knew everything was okay. Otherwise, you wouldn't go to sleep.
I mean, that's very valid. Because like the thing about Goosebumps, like I love going back and rereading them because like some of those cliffhangers are just ridiculous. Like they'll be like, and then my head fell off and I died. And then like, and then like the next page is like, I didn't die. It just felt like I did, or like something.
My head didn't really fell off. Somebody just hit me with an egg.
Yeah, my hat just slid off my head is what happened. No, that's exactly it. And that's what I loved about going through when I was doing the outline was like, I can really just do something for like fun, like this is just a fake out, so that became a fun thing was like each chapter, was like, how can I end it with some kind of a fake out? But the reason I did that is because, and to your point, Neil, like with the Goosebumps books, especially with no kids and attention spans and all that, they're very much designed to keep you reading. And that's my goal. And that's why R.L. Stine did Goosebumps was to, help kids read essentially. A lot of kids, including myself, we wanted to read because of Goosebumps. And like, even to this day, like I almost exclusively read Goosebumps still just because they're so easy to read. You can like an hour you can read like a whole book.
Yeah.
And so that's what I want to do with mine. And so that was how I like came up with the story, and then the story just kind of like unfolded from there, because it kind of just has the quintessential, like, there's the young protagonist, and who's got the annoying younger sibling, he's got the friend. They're left home alone, but I did want it to take place in one night, because like the night of the living pizza. So I really was a bit meticulous in like mapping out this night, which that presented a whole challenge, because it's like the time wise, it was like, I want this to feel like this could take place in one night, and not like, you're like, wait a second, how, like, it feels like it's been like a whole week, like, I really made sure, and I have these references to like the time, because I wanted it to like feel like this could potentially happen in like one night.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the like the not to give like too much away, but like it's kind of like, it's like, oh well, now I have to explain, kind of like, there's got to be like some lore about this thing, and then like as I was writing it, the lore was kind of like expanding, and so the main thing about that book is I had so much fun writing it. So my hope is that like people who read it can like pick up on that, because it was just a total blast. Like, I felt like I was just like, even though it took me like 4 years, like, for me, it was like, I'm like, oh, this is what I was meant to do.
Right. No, and it absolutely translates through the book, like that you were having fun writing it. And the ending, without giving anything away, does lend itself to a possible sequel down the line.
Which I do, I'm okay with saying this, but I do plan on doing I don't know if I'm going to call it Night of Living Pizza Part 2 or 2. I also thought about Dawn of the Living Pizza, like,
of course, the Romero. Yeah, of course. That makes so much sense. That would be so good. So good. I'm very excited. I'm very excited for the next one too. What is the title of the next Creeptales?
Oh yeah, so the second book, it's Welcome to Camp Vampire, which, I mean, it's not that hard to figure out. It's a little bit inspired by Goosebumps, Welcome to Camp Nightmare. But that one, it's kind of this one, it has, so the first one was like, it was like fun. It took me a while, but it was like fun to write. The second one has just been like kind of crazy, because first off, I when I got the idea, like, I heard it was on this Goosebumps podcast, and they were referencing what I thought was one of the short stories in the Tales to Give You Goosebumps book, where there's just a random reference to vampires attacking kids at a summer camp. And I was like, oh, that would be fun as like a book.
Yeah.
But I kid you not, Neil, like, I haven't been able to find, I don't know what this reference came from. I remember hearing it in like a podcast, but I haven't been able to figure out what Goosebumps story it's from.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And it's weird. And I've done research, and like, I'm like, I know I heard someone mention it, but like, I can't remember what exactly it's from.
Huh.
But it was kind of like, basically hopefully not like just me being delusional, but like a deep cut Goosebumps reference that I was like, oh, I kind of like to see how that would look as a book. And then I started writing that one, and that, because I put the one of the chapters, because that's another thing I want to do with the Creeptales books, is to have a preview of the next book.
Such a good idea. Not just from like from a nostalgia perspective, I love that, but because that's exactly what R.L. Stine did with the Goosebumps, is there would always be like a chapter to get you like stoked for the next one. But also, I think from a marketing perspective, and really like solidifying that you're building this out as a series. This isn't just one and done. It was a fun project to do. Like, Creeptales is a thing. There's going to be more. Like, this is something people can get invested in, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's my hope with it. The thing about so I included the sample chapter of Welcome to Camp Vampire, but the actual book itself was not finished. I had written like the first like 10 chapters or whatnot, but then I started like, okay, now I want to finish this, and I'm like working on it, and I'm like struggling. Like, I'm not gonna lie, the second book has been a struggle.
Yeah.
because it's like it's bigger, like it's at a summer camp. There's a lot of lore with like obviously there's vampires in it. There's a lot of lore with the vampires and then the kids. And I've been low key struggling with like the setup I feel is like really good. And then there's like the second half where I'm like trying to figure out where to go with it. Um, but I was like, well, I can't change what the second book is going to be because I already said like this is coming, you know.
Right,
So it's
right.
like I'm committing to this thing, and that it was kind of something I wanted to talk about here. But like, you know, it's a bit different. Of like, you know, the first book was like, oh, Night of Living Pizza, hell yeah, like I'm going to do this. The second one, this one is like, it's kind of like it's daunting to me because it's like I don't know if this is working as well as the first one. Like it feels more ambitious. There's a lot more happening, and I'm like, you know, I've been kind of second guessing myself along the way. But the really cool thing since I published my book, I've gotten to meet. There's a lot of authors who have like done books like I have. Like ADRO, like one of my friends, he has a series called Bumps in the Night that's a tribute to Goosebumps.
Nice.
His is a bit darker, but yeah, a lot of people in that realm, like the middle grade horror author like sphere, they've been really nice and like supportive and like have offered to like beta read for me.
I
So
love that. That's awesome.
so like that's what's really cool for me because it's like this is very new to me. So like I'm basically I'm prepping Creeptales #2, which I'm going to send to a handful of beta readers so then I can get the feedback because I want to make it, you know, the best that it can. And I think that for me is a big part of for me like storytelling, not just like writing and film, but it's like the collaborative aspect because you know, art's not created in a vacuum, and like as cool as it would be to be able to just write banger after banger, it's like I will fully say like I'm not the best writer, but I always try to write the best story that I can. And sometimes it does help to have, you know, like a reader, like someone read it and like give feedback and find ways to make things better. Because that's another thing for me is like I'm pretty like honest with myself as like a creative, you know, like I'm always looking for feedback and like ways to like improve, and which that goes to like both through like writing and film.
Right, right. No, and that makes sense. And I think that makes a lot of sense too with what you were just saying about, you know, making it through 2020 and like the pandemic and revisiting projects, right? Where you seem to be very community oriented. So when it comes like even to something as personal as like writing your homage, right? To bring in like and to get feedback is always a good thing, right? Because you're exactly right. I love what you said that, you know, art doesn't exist in a vacuum, you know, like we create it through experience, through community, through, you know, so many different avenues. That yeah, I am sure, and as someone who has like gotten stuck on projects myself, it's gonna be like once you have the beta readers, you get some feedback, and then you like get back to it. Once that clicks, it is like the most satisfying feeling in the world, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I know that moment's gonna come, you know, and it's just like it for me. It's kind of a cycle where it's like I don't know if you saw the SpongeBob episode where he's writing his essay. He's like, yeah,
Stop.
yeah, okay. That's really what it's like.
Yeah.
But you know, it's like because I go through like I'll write like a chapter here and there. And then, but I did have a moment the other day where it was for the first time, I finished the first draft and I read it all the way through in like one sitting. And I was like, okay, it was not bad. It was actually pretty good. And there was one or two moments where I like busted out laughing. And I'm like, okay, this is a good sign because if I'm laughing, hopefully that means I can make someone else laugh.
Right. My sense of humor is broken. I have to have Jen read everything like I write because I write the stupidest jokes now, and I laugh really hard. But then sometimes Jen will be like, "Bro, get it together." Like, so I'm lucky. And that's, again, why people reading your work is so important, because sometimes I know I need to be put in check.
So this will be just a light teaser, but book number 3, it's going to be dentist themed, and I'm going to be drawing some inspiration from Piano License Can Be Murder.
Okay. Good.
So if you're familiar with that one, which that episode low key traumatized me as a kid, so I can't wait to kind of dive into that.
That's so much fun. That's so much fun, dude. I'm so excited for you and everything you're doing with this series. But let's talk about what's next for you in your film career.
Yes. So a couple of things. So as we did not discuss this before, but I had a film that we shot called Camp Solstice, which we shot in 2022. And that thing we could do a whole episode on, because the journey I've gone through with that thing has just been like just so crazy. It started out as like hey, let's shoot something in a weekend. We'll rent like a cabin or something, or like Airbnb, and shoot this thing. And then it turned into this big thing that now it's been like 3 years now. And like, it's still like, we actually had just, and that's where this journey has taken me. We had just finished the last of the pickups like a couple months ago. And then somehow the footage got lost. Like the card with the footage on was lost. And we destroyed a jacket for that. So now I need to find like a replacement jacket just to get like one shot.
Oh no.
So man, I literally, we could do a whole episode on that film, which I do like. I wanted to release it this winter, but like between we just bought a house and then we have a baby on the way. So like,
and your baby's gonna like be here in December, right?
Yeah. About like 7-ish weeks, I think.
All right, so we're close. We're close, and even less by the time this episode airs, because it's Halloween.
Yes. So about 5 weeks, which I'm not going to think about that right now. So yeah, and that's where the point I kind of wanted to make. Sometimes with your projects, you just need to embrace the journey it takes you on, and don't be like me and just beat yourself up over the head where it's like, oh, it's not done, because sometimes a project tries, you might just can't get done. It can take years to finish. Like Creeptales, my first book, took me about 4 years from the original idea to the time I actually have to publish it. But it's been so worth it for me. And so that's why, like, my biggest thing would just be like, just keep at it. Obviously, like, you want to be doing it for the right reasons, which is why, as we discussed, it's good to be asking yourself that. But like, don't give up. Just kind of remind yourself of why you're doing it, and just keep doing it. And which leads up to now, because we have, Camp Solstice, which we're still finishing that. It's going to come. It'll probably be next year. But yeah, so we shot okay, and that's kind of the thing which ties to like where I'm kind of like, what's the next thing I want to do? Because I feel like with each project I've done, it's kind of like, how can I kind of go bigger for like the next one? With like Creeptales, the second book, I went bigger, and so that's why it's a bit daunting, because it's a lot more to deal with. And the same with our films. We shot like a bunch of short films where each year we tried to go like bigger and better. And so, but I'm like, I've always wanted to make a feature. So last year we shot a proof of concept short film for Halfway to Halloween. So it's basically the opening scene to like the feature, which is it's a coming of age slasher, is how I've been kind of like pitching it. But so we shot basically the opening scene to kind of show people like, this is what we're looking to do with the feature. And that film, that proof of concept short, which Neil, you were actually at we had like a little screening / rap party a few weeks ago.
That I was.
But yeah, I'm so glad you got to see it like up on the screen.
Me too.
But yeah, we're actually gonna, because next year we're gonna start putting it, submitting it to festivals. So, but the weekend of Halloween, starting today, technically, we will have our film on Vimeo, which I know, Neil, you said you provide the link, but you'll be able to like check it out and see it's a tease of what we're looking to do with the feature.
Yeah, no, thank you again for inviting me to your screening out in Ferndale there. That was a lot of fun to see, and halfway to Halloween, what you guys are doing with that proof of concept is a lot of fun, and there's so much potential for that story, and I'm really excited to see what you guys do with it. But yes, listeners, Dustin was right. We will have a link in the show notes of this episode so that you can watch it whenever it premieres today on Halloween or this weekend. We'll have more info on that in the show notes. But also, Dustin, okay, so you said something really, you said something else that I really like, which is I don't think I've heard people talk so much about like the overarching journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that there's joy in that, and like, because I think especially as a filmmaker, we think so much on a project to project basis, right? I'm focused on this project, and then I'm focused on this project, and it's like, all right, sometimes some things are going to take longer, but finding meaning and finding joy in even the challenges you face while doing this is something that's going to set you up for success long term. And I think that rings true for you. Like you stick to it. You focus on, making your work as best as it can be with whatever resources you have at the time. And then you move on, and we gradually learn and we get better. But to see that whole journey with its ups and downs as a net, as a positive, like in finding the positive in the downtimes is a great way to look at it.
Oh yeah, 100%. Because I feel like there's a reason why the hero's journey is such a common like archetype. Because I'm always kind of thinking about that. I don't just think about like project to project. Like I'm thinking about like kind of like my overarching story, where like I started out liking Goosebumps, liking writing, graduated to like film. Now I'm kind of back in Goosebumps, but now it's just like it's put me in this like where if you kind of look back, it feels like this natural progression that's gotten me to where I am now. And now I'm at a point where it's like, oh, like now it seems actually possible to make a feature film, because now I've actually met people that, if I'm like, hey, let's shoot this thing, and then they'll want to do it. So it's like, cool. So now I got to write the thing. And so, but that's what's been really rewarding for me is, each film and like each project it's kind of been its own like mini journey. And there's kind of like this arc that I'm seeing, not even just with like creatively, but also like through my life. Cause I'm finding more so like it, touching back to the community aspect, I'm realizing now how important it is to have that community, to like have that support. And how like special it is when you can celebrate these achievements together, but also like collaborate. Like that's another thing that I love about doing these things, is being able to collaborate with people, with artists, with people who are going to help me beta read. And there's tons of like amazing Detroit creatives and like Michigan-based creatives. And so I feel very fortunate to know and like have met and gotten to work with, as many of them, and the ones that I've met outside of Michigan too. For me, it's more rewarding than the actual like film and stuff, like the books and everything. That's kind of the fun stuff. Sometimes, but like for me, it's the aftermath when you get to like put it out there, and you get to have people you don't even know who just come up and will like, people will like say like, oh, I loved your book. Like my kids loved it. They enjoyed reading it. And they'll be like, can you sign it? And I'm like, oh, wow. Like, yeah, of course. Like, yeah, that's awesome. Like, also, I'm glad that your kids enjoyed reading it, because, that was one of my goals with Creeptales was I want kids to read, especially now. I know we haven't touched on it because I really don't like to, but like the whole like AI thing. And I think now is a really important time to to like put in the work and like show that it's good to like put in the work, like the stuff that will kind of like make me rip out the rest of my hair, but but it's so important to have like real art, like real stuff that's actually written, art that's actually like hand drawn and stuff like that, and it's worth it to put in the time to do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a whole other thing, but
no, that's 100% true, and I think that's what makes now such an important time for independent creators, right? When AI starts copying every established filmmaker's voice, we're going to need new voices, right? We're going to need more original stories, whether that's film, whether that's a book. It's an important time to be a storyteller. And I think there's so much to be said about that, but we would have to do a whole nother episode, I'm sure. R.L. Stine's book about writing the books, what's that called?
I think it's called There's Something Strange in My Brain.
Yes.
Called.
Okay. That's what I thought. I wasn't sure. Did you read that?
So I did read it, and I think I was like, because I had already written most of Night of the Living Pizza.
Right.
But I did read it, and I really recommend, if you're wanting to, not even just with writing stories, if you like to write film or like whatnot, there's a lot of really good exercises to like get you to kind of like brainstorm and like come up with things. I actually do at some point. I plan on kind of sitting down with some of those to like brainstorm ideas for like future Creeptales books. But yeah, that's a really good one.
Love that. And one final question, just because I think it's an experience that you've been through that I think other filmmakers especially will want to hear about. Can you tell us a little bit? I know you did. Was it a Kickstarter for English Breakfast?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did Kickstarter.
Right. Where did you see the most, like, how was that? How was putting together that campaign? And where do you think you found the most success in your approach to it?
So to answer your first question, it was a pain in the ass. It's a lot of work, and it was one of the that was the only time I'd done a Kickstarter. Like I haven't done one since, but because we were trying to like basically recoup what we invested to finish shooting English Breakfast.
Right.
And so did this Kickstarter and like came up with the tiers and the posters and everything. And then it turned into like, because I think Amanda was really busy at the time. And I was like, oh, I'm kind of doing this by myself now. And so it was just a lot to keep track of. In addition to in the indie film world, like when you're like, hey, you'll get this perk when the film is done. But then like when the film gets done, it can depend on a whole bunch of stuff.
Right. As you found out with English Breakfast.
Oh, yeah. So, and that's, that for me, I remember like sending updates because I was like, oh, I hope they don't think that I just like took people's money and stuff and like ran, because I'm like, this thing is definitely coming out. But I think I found, I don't know if people will like this feedback, but like you kind of have to be annoying with it. Like, because it's like, obviously, like when you first start, like the first few days or whatnot, it's going to be really good. You're going to be like, oh man, we got all these backers and everything. But then you'll hit like a wall where like you're not really getting backers, and you're like, okay. And then maybe like a week or so goes by, can be really slow depending on like your approach. That was the first time I'd done it. And so I found like I just had to just push the idea of like I'm being annoying by like posting about this all the time. It's like you have to just like embrace, just be annoying, just share the thing, because like people aren't just gonna like magically find you. So you have to like be like, it's okay to be annoying and just like post about it a bunch and find creative ways to do it. I think going like, if I was to do one again, I don't think I would do Kickstarter just because they charge, like they take a percentage out.
Okay.
Which I haven't like gotten into the others. I know there's Seed and Spark, that one's popular. But I know there's like other options that you might not have to pay as much of a fee. But I'd recommend because I pretty much just dove in, but I would recommend maybe like just do a little research on like, what can make it successful. But at the end of the day, it's just like just go for it because when it comes to when we do the Halfway to Halloween feature, I know I'm going to want to involve crowdfunding, but I want to approach it in a way that's kind of getting people involved with the with the journey and with the project with us.
Right.
Because I apologize, the guest that you had on, I think his last name was St. John.
Saint Germain.
Saint Germain. Luke St. Germain. Yeah, yeah. You guys were talking about this, and he actually he mentioned a couple of things that I was thinking about for when we do ours. But it's like it's kind of a way to get people more involved and feel like they're a part of the ride. And I think if you can really kind of rile people up and get people excited for it, you can't just expect people to be like excited for your project. You kind of have to make that excitement kind of like happen.
Right.
And it sounds funny, but it's true. Because if you can get people like jazzed about your project, they'll be like, oh yeah, like I want to be part of this. Yeah, cool. So it's like finding ways that, you don't have to be like too on the nose, but like finding ways to like kind of like get people excited for your project and make them feel like they're a part of it or that journey.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, your excitement, your passion has to be recognizable, right? Because it needs to be infectious to get other people excited about helping you make something. And I think that's like really important. One thing I learned recently about these campaigns is how much you need to do like pre-production before you even like start day one of like a live campaign, right? Because from the numbers that they have, most successful campaigns who get their funding get a third of that in that first day. So you could be teasing for weeks like, hey, we're going to go live next month on the 15th. Keep it in your calendar. A week later, oh my gosh, and we're going to do this. And then the week later is here's what the rewards are going to be. And building on top of that and building that anticipation and that excitement for the project before you even start the funding so you can get as much as possible on that first day. You're going to have a midway slump. I've heard that all of them do. And then hopefully you're close enough to the goal in your last week, or you're getting close enough to the goal that people want to see you cross that finish line and help out there. So yeah, man, no, I'm super excited for everything you're going to do with Halfway to Halloween. Listeners, please go check it out. And if it's not up yet, it should be on premiere mode, so you'll know when it's going to be up. Go back and check it out. In the meantime, Dustin, where can everyone find the rest of your films?
So Tin Hen Productions, we have a YouTube channel right now. That's where we have most of our films. There are some that, I don't know, they're kind of like all over, and that's where I need to like get a bit more organized. Like some are on Vimeo, but yeah, Tin Hen Productions, that's my wife Amanda and I's production company. So we've got our films on our YouTube. And then I have like, I'm kind of all over, but like a lot of my handles online are Dustin Hendrix 6. So you can find, I don't know why I picked 6. But you can find me on there. And then also we have a Creeptales page. I think it's just Creeptales. Which if you find me, you'll find Creeptales. Then we also have a Halfway to Halloween page. So I kind of recommend just look me up, and then I have like links to other stuff. So that's one thing I need to get better at, like making my stuff like easy.
Get a link tree and whatever. And yeah, man. No, we will have all of Dustin's handles on the different platforms linked in the show notes as well. Also, one more thing, Dustin, where can everyone buy their copy of Creeptales?
Oh yeah, so you can buy a copy. It's on Amazon, which I know not everyone's a huge fan of, which I totally get. But it's it's on there. I'm working on getting it available elsewhere. This is my first time self-publishing, but you can also message me directly if you want a signed copy. I'd be happy to sign and like personalize it for you. And then I also just wanted to, I have not announced this yet. This is like an exclusive thing for Midnight Horror Picture Show podcast.
Okay.
So I'm going to be posting this soon, but I want to start having toy versions of the Creeptales monsters. It's probably backwards, but
stop it. No, it's not. Where, how, where, what?
So a friend that I actually met through my through my book stuff, her name's Kat. She does 3D printing, and she took the monster from the cover, and she did like a 3D print version of it. I don't know if you remember like Polly Pocket or Mighty Max, like those those things. So it's kind of like she started with the box, and then she like 3D printed the monster, like the pizza monster. So which he can actually go like in the box. And then there's also like little pizzas.
Stop it.
So but basically I want to have also kind of like a Creeptales toy line to go with the books.
Yeah, of course.
Because also I love toys and figures growing up. So I haven't actually, like, this is the first time I've shown this to like anyone really. But
brother, that is so cool.
Which the first time I held this in my hand, I was like, my inner child was like freaking out. But because I wanted to do a post soon to kind of gauge people's interest, but I had a feeling like if people liked like the book cover, that they might like a toy version.
Brother, put me on the pre-order list.
Okay, that's good to know.
Sign me up today.
I haven't even I don't even have the packaging for this stuff yet, but that's something that I was working on secretly.
Dude, I love that. That is so cool. That is so much fun. Yeah, 100%. That's great. That's such a great idea. And I know, obviously, you know, you and I, over the summer when Trick or Treat Studios finally started shipping their Goosebumps line, their series 1 of their Goosebumps line that we both pre-ordered last year, and had been waiting patiently for.
No, it wasn't it. I thought it was 2 years ago.
Was it 2 years ago? But we both got the whole set and we're geeking out about it super hard, because they're so much fun. And when you have a property like Goosebumps that means so much to so many of us, and to like see those, not just the characters, but like the Tim Jacobus illustrations that were so pivotal to that series coming to life. It's so cool. And to have that opportunity to have someone to start putting that into production for you, like that is honestly one of the coolest things I've seen. I'm stoked for you, man.
Oh, thank you. No, I wasn't even thinking about doing it actually. So I'm going to plug Kat because she's an amazing artist. I've hit her up because she does like 3D, like she made this, it's 3D printed, but she had to create like the digital version of the creature to like print this out. So I want to give her a huge shout out. Her work is so good. But I actually had hit her up because I'm going to start doing videos for like Creeptales to kind of promote the series, but I wanted a prop like monster hand, because I'm going to have like a monster hand on my finger with a tiny microphone. And so I hit her up to make a little like a horror from Horrorland monster hand. So she made that, and then she actually came up with the idea to like do this because she had like a Polly Pocket like box, and she's like, what if I made like the pizza and like the monster? And then and so she ended up making it.
Dude, that's so
I'm like,
cool.
so it's literally like amazing. But yeah, and I mean that kind of ties to the why I love being able to connect with people like that, because I wasn't thinking about doing this, but now
that you have the opportunity to, that's such a cool thing to do. 100%.
Right. Yeah. And actually, I'm actually having my cover artist change the cover for the second book because I want you to see more of the monster, because I want to do like
the same. Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Of course, man. No,
I'm
that's
like, okay.
That's perfect, dude. Dude, I'm so excited for you, and I'm so stoked for everything you're doing. Listeners, please go check out Dustin's work. Check out that new film. Pick up a copy of Creeptales. You won't regret it. It's a lot of fun. Hit up Dustin. Tell him how good he's doing. Tell him how good his stuff is. And yeah, man, no, it's been wonderful talking to you. It's always a pleasure. And I can't wait to see what you do next, man. And we'll have you back on when we have some updates or when you go into production next year on the feature.
I would love to.
Okay, or 2027. All right, because realistically, you're putting it on the. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
No, I mean let's go. Let's do it next year.
Let's do it next year. That's it, man.
I'm just like, because I just go into that. I'm gonna be dad next year, so like, it's a lot of big stuff, but a lot of
Listen,
great
brother, we'll still have a lot to talk about because the new dad life is not for the faint of heart. So,
which is why I do this stuff.
Right. Yeah, that's a horror story all its own, and I'm sure it will inspire you to write something fun.
Oh, okay. I can see it happening.
Yeah, brother. Of course, because that's what we do. We pull from whatever we can. You get those ideas, and it's like, oh, yeah. This would actually make this would make a great short, or this would make a great chapter of a book. No,
Our trauma,
dude. Honestly, though. All right. Well, on that note, it's been great talking to you, man. Again, listeners, please check the show notes to follow along with Dustin and everything he's working on. And yeah, man, again, congrats on everything. I'm stoked for you.
Oh, thanks so much, man. Thank you so much for having me on here for the first time.
For the first time, thank you for being here. And thank you for listening. Make sure you go watch Halfway to Halloween and pick up a copy of Creeptales #1. Check the show notes for more info and make sure to follow Dustin on socials. Thank you to those who have already followed and given 5-star reviews on our show. If you haven't, please consider doing so, as it's the best way to support this platform and the truly independent artists we feature. Follow us on Instagram at Midnight Horror Picture Show. Our theme music is by Nick Ferrari at Nick_Ferrari on Instagram. Midnight Horror Picture Show is proudly a part of the Hearite Podcast Network. Check out our sister show, Dead Pine Archives, wherever you listen to podcasts. We will be back in November with a new episode. Until then, stay spooky and keep supporting indie horror.